Good evening, everyone. This is Select Board Water Commissioner meeting for Tuesday, May 28th of 2024. Tonight's agenda, under old business, we've got the road paving bids. We've got some masonry repairs bids to the town office building, Grist Mill Park, court and fire station parking lot paving bids. We look at that interlocal agreement for Justin Mason for the assessor. Under new business, we need to approve the meeting minutes from the May 13th meeting, sign some payroll warrants, sign fleet permits, look at the Comcast service and Nemrick Cloud for the town here, and Cat Crusaders has a request for $500. Is there any other business we need to?
Nothing that I have.
I think Brian would like to review the lighting issue he brought up last time.
Okay.
One other thing that I forgot to put on there is Caden Dayberg has a request for naming the road that he has on his development out in Up Cook Road.
Okay.
I have some updates from you that if you guys would like to hear a report from me, I can let you know about some other things we're working on.
Okay. All right. So we will jump right into everything here. So you're still looking for light bulbs up there?
The light bulbs and audit report.
Audit report. Is there any update on that?
Yeah, so the town audit has been received and has been put in. What happened was the audit was actually finished, I think, on April 11th, but there seems to have been some miscommunication with our HR Smith, who does that for us, sent it to the wrong email address or something like that. So
Okay.
I told the town clerk that it had been brought up at the last meeting, and she called them, but she's like, oh yes, I forgot about that. So she checked about that, and that's what happened. So she got their initial audit report. The only discrepancy that there was in the sums between what she had and what they had to do with there were a couple of current use payments that were, because current use can come in at any time of the year. I think they went out in December, but because our tax year is to December, or because our taxes are due November 15th, the auditor was interpreting those as past due or not on time payments, and that is, they were not past due. They just they weren't issued until December, so we got the money a little bit later. So that was the entire discrepancy between those. So I think the town clerk corrected that with them, and it's now been issued in the final report, and that's on the website. But I can also get a copy for you, Brian.
So you have,
Yeah.
you have the report now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah.
Were you just looking for a copy of it, Brian, or are you a specific item?
Well, I want to see if the numbers match, because whatever the numbers in the book, to me, is incorrect.
What numbers?
Do we have $1,700,000 left at the end of the year?
Gotcha.
And $1 million to pay out? To me, if you got $1,700,000 left, you have $1 million to pay out, the payment should be made, should have been able to be made, I would think. And to my knowledge, it goes from January 1st to December 31st. That's what happens within that year, correct?
Yeah, I know that town meeting day there was a big discussion about fiscal year ending versus some of the contract years in the middle of it, and maybe adjusting the dates so everything online easier for the book. That town meeting day, but yeah.
But we work on a calendar year, not a fiscal year.
Right.
So I'm assuming none of you have seen the report yet.
Nope. Oh, yeah.
And the other question is, if I had asked what this said, had you looked to receive it?
No, it wasn't on top of my radar, that's no.
But to me, if I'm paying $15,000 for a report, I'd like to see it.
Right, my understanding that the clerk was in contact with them at the beginning of January, or beginning of April, excuse me. And I think we were expecting a report at any time, and then like I said, somehow it fell off the radar there for a couple of weeks, and that's what happened, is that it was just sent to the wrong place, so.
But I think when we asked about that at town meeting day, that should have been.
Yeah. So-
Right, as I said, between town meeting, I think the clerk was in communication with them about the audit immediately following town meeting day and up until, the first week or two of April. And like I said, I think we moved on to other stuff here, and there was just a miscommunication with the auditor about getting that report transmitted. So that's, as far as I know, that's what happened.
So we have the report now.
Correct, yeah.
Is it digital, like something?
Yeah, it's up on the
email to
website
us?
right now. Yeah, it's up on the website right now, and I can get a printout for Brian in just a minute.
I'd like a printout, because
Yeah. Well, as soon as we're done here, I can print it out for you. Okay.
Okay. On the lights down there, should we get somebody from Northwest Regional Planning to look at feasibility of streetlights?
I can do that. I don't know if, does Kyle Rainier do that sort of, I don't know if he does transportation stuff, I don't know if lighting.
There's existing lighting there, right?
Yeah.
There's existing lighting up Sheldon Heights, right?
no.
None whatsoever.
That's why I like to get one at the corner, because you talk to somebody at nighttime when you're coming, it's kind of a blind drive.
Yep.
There's one right there, and there's a new pole there. Then there's another one right just down the road where the fire hydrant is.
Gotcha.
And there's a pole there too. I said, be on a safety aspect for that one.
Right, so here's what I think, I can contact Northwest Regional Planning about that. The Planning Commission's gonna have a meeting on June 4th. And I can, hopefully by then, someone from Northwest Regional Planning will be here for that meeting, I believe. So if I can't talk to them, get a hold of them before then, hopefully by that time I can put it on the Planning Commission's agenda to discuss also, if that makes sense.
Taking a buzz around down.
Yep.
Looking for thoughts that might need it or
Right.
don't need it.
Well, don't, Green Mountain Power,
What's that?
does Green Mountain Power provide the lights?
I don't think that's Green Mountain there, I think that's co-op anyway, I think, right? Or is it-
I'm Green Mountain Power.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never dealt with that.
I mean, historically, I know that street lighting was an issue that we actually used to deal with at town meeting. It was used to be an annual vote about having street lights up in different neighborhoods, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's something that the utility, I mean, obviously you'll get power from the utility company, but, and you'd have to deal with them to get those lights installed, but I don't think they provide them. The town would have to pay for that infrastructure, I would think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would imagine.
I know when I was on the board, they changed the belt, and that was, well,
Yeah,
there's the
they
energy
upgraded them.
efficiency.
But there's some, I mean, I think you have to get permission to put stuff on the poles, so.
So you need to talk to the power company.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get a hold of somebody that knows the ins and outs of that
Okay.
and see what we can figure out. Figure out on that.
Well, that's the, yeah, that is the, no, it's not exactly the same service that they're doing. So, the contractor who did the original work, you guys had received that, we received the quote from them some time ago. They identified, some, I think 4 windows and a couple of, and a big crack on the side of on the end of the building here, and a couple of sills to fix. And I think their proposal, if you look at it, is to remove the bricks where there are cracks and then to install some sort of backer rod to allow for movement on that. The other quote that I got, they came and did their own inspection. I think they found more cracks than the first contractor found. Some of them are hairline cracks. And instead of removing all the bricks, they would remove and replace some of the bricks, but they said they didn't contemplate that backer rod idea. They said, well, we could replace the bricks, but the bricks would just break again anyway. So they're saying that they parted it with like a silicone or something to seal those cracks in instead. So it's not exactly an apples to apples comparison in terms of what they want to do. So I can ask each contractor to prepare a quote for that, if you'd like to, for each style of fixing it, or if you'd like. And the other thing is, again, the first contractor, I don't think they identified all of the issues with the building. I think there's more, like I said, it's hairline damage, but there are cracks on basically every window, I think. In some cases, those cracks go all the way down into the foundation also. So.
I think both of them are reputable organizations. I mean, I've dealt with one of these personally, and I like their work, but
Yeah, Roy did the original work here, right?
Did they? I thought it was Jan that did
I
it.
think it was Jan. At least that's what I understood.
I'd have to go back, but that was my understanding was that they had done the work here, but
Yeah, maybe.
I'd have to. I think you would know better than me, Steve, but I don't remember.
Yeah, these are 2 very different quotes.
Yeah. So as I say, if you'd rather, I can kind of take each one as scenario A and scenario B and then ask each of them to quote for, this much work and, this style of repair or that style of repair, what do you got?
Yeah,
If you'd rather, I think that'd be fairly easy for them to do since they've both been here now. Of course, one quote is from January, so I don't know if they'll change prices or not, but.
yeah.
They both stand up warranty-wise on their work, or guarantee, I should say, on their work?
I don't believe we had a conversation about that,
Okay.
but I can inquire about that.
Do either one of them have a reason why, cause of it?
They didn't really get into that. Obviously, the building has settled since it was built, which I know wasn't that long ago, but I'm not sure.
Well, Roy said the inspection of the building shows many vertical cracks traveling from the footings up through the brickwork. So it started moving at the base, and it's, when everything shift, I guess.
Right.
But then the corrective actions provided by Jan will also provide, that backer rod and Tremco caulking to allow movement in the areas for the future. So they're just kind of like the preventive measures as well, where the other quote, that's why I said they're not the same, because this one, you wonder, okay, if they were to do preventative measures as well.
Right,
what would
yeah.
that as well. just repair.
Right. So,
Right, so that, the first quote might change because there appears to be more.
yeah, that's the first quote, again, yeah, I don't think they had all of the repairs that necessarily might need to be made, and the second quote is a slightly different method, and maybe we prefer, to look at each method.
Well, see if you can have a
All right, I'll see what I can do
clarification
about
on
that.
all this.
Okay.
I guess, I'll ask each one if they think that the other way of doing
Right.
it's better or worse. or
Right.
See if we get that figured out. Alright, so the road paving bids, we got Pike. We're looking at $89.10 a ton for and then what comes, we're looking at $93.80 a ton. And then Oliver paving. We don't have
90 and a quarter.
90 and a quarter. Oh,
Yeah.
install price is 90. 90 and a quarter. They all come out about the same tonnage or
No, Hungerford's was less tonnage,
less tonnage?
but I think we went over that last time, is that they have slightly different figures for how much shim and how much overlay they want to do on certain roads. And I think the length of the roads is essentially, the area they want to pave is the same, they just have different thicknesses they want to put down.
Yeah,
But I didn't know what, I didn't know if the price per ton would really change if we had them adjust that. I didn't think it would.
they usually don't, it's a matter of, a lot of times they'll give you the quote, but it'll be so much a ton, and then if they need more to finish the job, it's just gonna be that much more, that many more tons.
Have they done any, do you know if there's any investigation into the base there off of Mill Street at the fire station? If they could put anything down?
Right.
That's a separate-
That's a separate, this is on the road
this is
paving.
all the stuff.
The fire department, well, we can get to that later, but,
That's fine.
yeah.
That, the grant paperwork's all set.
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah. I haven't really received anything additional to that, yet, other than the notice of award that we got, a
Yeah,
few weeks ago. I assume that will be finalized, we'll get the actual,
do you know
stuff by, it'll be.
Pikes would be available to do this?
Yes, I think they would be. They, Joe seemed pretty eager to, he said, obviously they're working on the, I think they're doing
They do-
105, I forget if they're doing 105 or 104, but
Yeah,
they're,
they're
One
doing
of-
one.
right, and, but once that project's over with, I think, he said July they would be, available.
So it won't be November, December.
Right, I don't think it would be very late, no.
How many miles are you looking at paving?
Oh, what do we got?
I don't know if I have that up.
I think we had it last time.
On the grant for,
East Sheldon Road. East Sheldon Road starts by Arnaz Sugar House and goes to the border, right?
well, we're gonna do it, the plan is to do it in two segments, so it would go from the sugar house up to the corner, a little bit past the corner, maybe 500 feet past the corner, because that's where, a few years ago, we did lay some pavement up there that goes from that spot all the way to where Jeff and Debbie could tell and that pavement is generally speaking in good shape, but, the second segment we would pave would be, from, near Jeff and Debbie's back toward, where the beef farm is there with where the McGowan Brook goes under, the road. Yeah, right, Reeds, yeah. So it would be kind of 2 segments, but it would add up to about 1.5 miles of road, maybe a little bit more than that. Yeah. And then there's about there's maybe 6 or 7/10 of a mile to finish on Rice Hill Road. We'd be
Church Street over there.
Church Street. We'd be looking to pave Shawville Road from the bridge back to Mill Street.
Yeah.
And also paving Mill Street. And High Street.
Yeah,
Correct, yeah, High Street.
Hungerford's quote has a linear footage for those roads, basically.
Yeah.
Or something. So that's
So,
almost 2 miles on each shoulder there.
Yeah.
When you say Mill Street, that's 105 to 105?
And I think it's just down the bottom of the mill, right? All the way up.
Yeah, I think it would be, we'd be focusing on the, from where Shawville Road is toward 105, because above that, we may be doing the sewer project later. From the post office to the rail trail, we're looking at a potential sewer project, so. And that part of the road was paved a few years ago, although with a pretty late coat, I think. So we wouldn't be trying to pave something that we think we might have to dig up within a year or two. So.
All right. Explosions.
One thing that I will say is that the road foreman and I have been talking, because we did go with Whitcomb's a few years ago on some of they do kind of makes that pink pavement after a while, but that the asphalt that they make is does seem to be a bit more brittle in terms of it's already, like Pleasant Street's already cracking up a little bit on the corners. And the other thing is, Hungerford is a relatively new company, and I don't know how much experience they have doing bigger projects. Thus,
All right. Take a motion, accept one of theirs.
Motion to accept Pike?
Yeah.
I'll make a
motion, whatever we want to make motion.
Oh. I was gonna make a motion to accept the bid from Pike Industries.
Okay. Second on that.
I'll second.
Guess we're all in favor of that?
Yep.
All right. So we will go with Pike Industries to do a road paving this year. You need a signed copy of that one?
yeah, I think we will. Yeah.
So, real quick, just already having trouble remembering.
Yep.
Were you reaching out to the masonry to follow up on them?
Correct, I will do that, yeah.
Okay. Now, do we have the,
I was just realizing I probably don't have the other two
The
paving
crystal
quotes, but I can
fire.
get them real quick if you want to move on to reading the minutes or something. I can
Okay.
do that. I'll be right back.
Select Board Water Commissioner meeting held here May 13th of 2024. Attending from the Select Board, Stephen Dodd, Seth Hungerford, Rick Gasney, Nick Norris, and others here were Brian Derry, John Grismar, Franklin County Sheriff, Seth Cattell, our road foreman, and Matt Stebbins, Town Administrator, and Jerry Vasey, recording from Northwest Access TV. At 7:36, I called the meeting to order and read the agenda, and then asked for any additions. Brian would like to discuss street lighting. Matt submitted paving quotes for review. 7:39, Sheriff Grismar discussed the policing proposal for Sheldon. The board asked if the cost could be itemized. The sheriff will see if that can be done. Excuse me. The sheriff said hours of coverage could be negotiated. The shortest contract he would offer would be 2 years. He would also accept fewer hours of coverage over a 2-year contract. Rick asked if the contract pricing is the same in other towns, which the sheriff confirmed. Dispatching costs were discussed. The sheriff is contracted with Highgate and Fairfax right now. Brian asked about calls outside the contracted hours. In that case, state police are called. Sheriff said he would be available for any questions. He appreciates that there is sticker shock with the price, but he must compete with other agencies for personnel. 7:55, Brian Derry is concerned about nighttime driving safety on Sheldon Heights and would like 2 street lights installed. Select Board will investigate and determine the costs. Brian asked if the annual audit had been received. Matt said not to his knowledge, but he will ask town clerk. Brian will let the copy when it is received. 7:58, Seth made a motion to appoint Cody Bombardier as Animal Control Officer, seconded by Rick, and the motion carried. Matt will contact him. The board took up the Connecting Sheldon Scoping Grant. Matt explained the focus of the grant is to plan a bike pedestrian corridor from the rail trail to the school. The next step is to appoint a project manager. Rick moved to appoint Northwest Regional Planning as the project manager. Seth seconded, the motion carried. 8:04, the board reviewed an estimate of the Mill Street Sewer Project recently received from Otter Creek Engineering. Seth asked about camera inspection. Matt replied that it's being scheduled soon. The board will wait to move forward until the camera work is completed. At 8:13, the board reviewed a price quote for road chloride from Innovative Surface Solutions. The price is $1.11 a gallon, which is the same as last year. Seth made a motion, seconded by Rick, to accept the contract for this year. Motion carried, and I signed the contract. 8:14, the board discussed the issue of town property at the school lot. Matt gave a summary of his conversations with town attorney Jim Barlow and the FNESU staff and his research in the old Grand West. 8:41, the board reviewed 2 paving quotes received. The town has been awarded a Class 2 paving grant for the East Sheldon Road. Seth Cattell said that a 3rd contractor would be in Sheldon preparing a bid later this week. At 8:44, Nick Norris joined the meeting. 8:49, I read the minutes of April 22nd meeting, a motion by Nick and seconded by Seth to approve the minutes as read, carried. 9 o'clock, I read the minutes of the May 6th special meeting, a motion by Rick and Seth. Motion by Seth and then seconded by Rick to approve those minutes as read. And then at 9:03, I read the minutes of the May 8th special meeting. Motion by Nick and seconded by Rick to approve those minutes as read. 9:04, Seth moved the annual readoption of the local emergency management plan with only changes to update contact information. This was seconded by Rick and the motion carried. At 9:05, the town administrator gave a brief report on his recent activities. 9:17, Seth motion to enter into executive session, seconded by Nick, and this carried. 10:21, Nick moved to exit executive session, seconded by Rick, the motion carried. Board discussed highway personnel with the road foreman. 2 candidates were selected for job offers with the highway department. The vacancy on the select board was also discussed. 10:22, a motion was made by Seth, seconded by Nick, to appoint Greg Stebbins to fill the vacancy on the board. And I will contact Greg. And then at 10:22, motion made by Seth to adjourn, seconded by Nick. This motion was carried and the meeting adjourned. Next meeting is Tuesday, May 28th, due to the Memorial Day holiday. Take a motion to accept these minutes as read.
I make a motion.
Second on that.
Yep.
All in favor? Opposed?
So on the Gristmill Park and Fire Station paving.
Yeah.
So we received the bid initially from Hungerford. I called a couple companies to get I submitted, here's the square footage you're looking for, et cetera.
Yep.
And one of them looked at it, the other, I think Bushy's really, they're really just paving driveways this year. And I talked to Premier down in Georgia, and they looked at it for about a week, and then they got back to me and said, yeah, we don't want to do it this year. So I didn't know that we'd be looking further afield than that for someone else to be doing it. So I didn't know if we wanted to consider another bid or just deal with the one that we've already received.
Yeah, at this point in the
So
season,
there-
it's probably gonna be
yeah.
tough to get somebody to come do that.
So there's the bid's in 2 parts, obviously, with the basketball court being one and the fire department being the other. I think the diagram's not exactly correct on the fire department, but the square footage is more or less on the money, so.
Did anybody just have a discussion with them? I know they were saying that it's
Oh,
not
right,
really
yeah.
level there.
I know, I did not follow up with them about that, and we had a discussion about it because the diagram there is not exactly correct, because you can't, there's not 9 feet to add on both sides. There's one side is maybe 3 feet, or 4 feet, and the other side it's more like 12 or 15, you could, if you wanted. But I think in order to do that, you'd have to go take a sample probably of the ground there and see if the foot, but I believe the stone was put down there a few years ago and it's been driven on for a while, so.
Wasn't that stone put down outside that parking lot after the parking lot was paved?
Yeah,
Right.
Tried to make it a little bigger so they could put their tires out there in the park.
So,
Is this assuming they're talking about assuming the base was installed in the quote?
right, I think the quote was assuming that you
Right.
are gonna expand the parking lot, yeah.
Right, it's my understanding that they weren't sure if the rock was just thrown there, or if there was actually
Right,
some subsoil taken out and then packed or whatever.
right. I'm not sure if that happened or not. That was Seth's concern also with it, was whether we needed to add more, but.
I don't know.
So the answer is no, I did not get them to talk about that, so.
Well, I think we could hire them to do the job. We just have to get down there, either our crew go down with the backhoe or hire Todd to go down there and make sure it's got a good base under it. He's got to haul in a few truckloads of stone, or we can haul the stone, but,
Right.
you know,
Have somebody, yeah.
if he, if, 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 Seth's gonna be by himself for a while longer.
Right.
We might have him call Todd and, you know, show him. Put some stakes in the ground where that extension's gonna go on there and just say, you know, we need a good base under it. And, you know, you can do some exploratory digging and we can all, I mean, we could park our truck down there and get loaded with dirt. The stuff on, you know, that he's gotta dig out of there and Seth could run down and get him all the stone too, if, you know, if need be. That would be the cheapest and easiest way to do it. That way it'd be solid underneath there, give it time and try to get a idea from the breeze of when they're coming so that we have enough lead time to get that done for the front is pretty much, they just gotta shim that, right? And then the court down here, there was some discussion about that not being very level, is there any? I mean, they said,
It's,
weren't they talking about though, for the skate rink, it wasn't very level?
oh, so I think the idea would be to, well, they'd like it to be level, but they'd also like to put a berm around the edge so to keep the water in more in the winter when you, instead of having to have boards around it. Because right now, Jack's been putting, you know, installing boards around the outside of it. If you had a, if you made it so it was kind of naturally kept the wall, if you had a berm, you know, a 1 or 2 inch berm around the edge, it would keep the water in. That's an idea. We didn't talk about that with them, I don't think.
Drainage.
Drain.
You would have to drain somewhere else, that's the problem, right, yeah, exactly, so. But that's not included in that bid.
No.
So.
But I don't know if that's worth discussing with them, how much work it would be, and how much extra it would cost to do that.
To say to level it, it could be all 3 inches at a level, real easy.
Is it?
I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's,
Yeah, I know somebody said that it wasn't real level, but I've never
I
been
guess
down
I
there.
haven't been, I guess I haven't noticed it being, I mean, it's not, it's, the
Jack,
pavement was not as,
Jack or whoever's flooded it would know.
Right.
Cover it up and pull water,
Right.
but I've never heard that it didn't hold water on one end or something,
Yeah.
but I know there was that discussion about the lip there, and there's probably a way to do that.
Mhm.
And so that, you know, you leave one end
Right, you
open,
can drain
and then you can just
inside,
put
yeah.
a temporary barrier there or something.
I think it does, if memory serves, of course, we haven't put a rink up in a couple of years, but if memory serves, it did. I think the water is, it is more, it goes down toward the back, you know, from the road to the back. I think it goes down and it also goes to the left, I think, toward the river. But it's not a huge difference.
Yeah.
It might be an inch or 2 out of level, but that's.
And when they shim that, they could just,
Right, I don't think it's something you couldn't deal with a just shimming it,
well, my suggestion is we contact Hungerford and tell them we want this work done, these 3 proposals. But we need to know when they're coming, because they're gonna have to take the fence down for them to get in there to do that.
yeah.
So if they could keep us in the loop of when they expect to come and just tell them you need to know so we can make sure that extension on that parking lot's, the base
Right,
is
yeah,
fixed for
right,
him
yeah.
before he comes. And then ask him about best way to do that court down there that it would be easier to flood in the winter. And if that's something that he thinks is easy to do and not that expensive, then
Mhm.
that probably would be a good way to go. snow.
The last time, I think Seth Cattell had checked with them on that, and they said that quote was still good, within this month,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think that it was all done last year, but they were. Okay.
Do we know how much longer he's going to be on?
So we have, 2 acceptances, for the road crew position. The issue with, we need to have a pre-employment drug test for both of them. We've scheduled that for Thursday morning. My understanding is that one of the applicants would be available to begin pretty much immediately after that, so I expect he would start next Monday, if all goes well with the drug test, get the results back. The other candidate, I think, is going to finish his work with his current employment on June 5th, and he would be looking to join the town on June 6th. So that's, I think that's the next Thursday. I can't remember which day that is, but
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Right. So.
You'll line it up with them to come in and get their paperwork.
Yeah, the one who wants to start immediately is all set except for the drug test, and the other one, I will get the paper, when they come in on Thursday morning, I'll hand them the whole packet, and hopefully they'll get it back to me as soon as possible after that, so. As far as I know, we'll be good to go with both of them, within the next 2 weeks, basically.
Do we need to sign the policy then?
I think we need to make sure that the policy is properly updated first, right?
Right, I have, one of them has already signed the acknowledgement of the policy, but I told him that we expect that these changes will be made within a year. I mean, the policy does say that the select board can change it at any time, so I think both of them have been at least orally instructed that, this is what we're looking to have the changes be by the fall of this year.
All right, that sounds good. You guys had a chance to look at this interlocal agreement?
So I must confess, I haven't had a whole lot of time to look at it myself either, but as you'll see in that cost breakdown, the general idea here is that Justin would be an employee of the town of Johnson, and then the services that he provides to other towns would be billed from the town of Johnson. So they would invoice us for,
So his
yeah.
benefit package comes from the town of Johnson?
Correct.
And we would pay our share?
That's right, they would invoice us for his time and his benefits, prorated in Sheldon, and there should be the breakdown of that in that.
Yep.
So those numbers I've highlighted in pink are if he's working in Sheldon for 6 hours a week. The bottom table is if he's worked here for 8 hours a week. As I said, I think the other towns Johnson might prefer that we hire him for 8 hours, but in my discussions with Kim and also with Justin himself, it seems like 6 hours is probably more the right size.
He's comfortable with 6 hours,
Right.
he thinks he'll get good.
Yeah, and I think the other towns are okay with that, they wouldn't, I don't think they would be very happy if we were saying like 4 hours, so I think 6 is acceptable to them. There's going to be another meeting of all those people who are working on this interlocal agreement on the 31st, so I'm planning to attend that. You guys could take action on this tonight if you wanted, but we could also wait until the first meeting of June, I think. But as long as we're, still.
They don't need to know for their meeting whether.
I'm not sure if they need to
It
know
would
exactly.
make a difference on their contract stuff, or?
I think if we are agreeing in principle, I'm not sure that we necessarily need to make a motion because the agreement isn't quite finalized yet. So I wouldn't want you guys to agree to something that's not quite
Yeah.
set in stone, but if they understand, if we're more or less in agreement here, I can communicate that on May 31st. As I said, basically, I think the idea is that the May 31st is you come up with the final version of this, and then all the boards vote to, right. So I guess as long as we are still willing to participate, I'm not sure if we necessarily need to take a motion to commit to that, or I guess you could have just a motion to do that, to say that we want to participate in this interlocal agreement, and we'll look to adopt it as it's finalized at a later time. But one thing that did change a little bit is that so Johnson will charge an administrative fee for doing those doing that invoicing, and I think they used to prorate it depending on how many hours Justin worked, but really the administrative work is the same no matter how many hours he works for you. So in the new proposal, it's the same fee for every town except for Johnson. I think that's one of the last columns in that table. I think it's $80 or something like that.
81.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Administrative, town administration fees.
Right, and I can't remember if that's per month or if that's per pay period, but.
It says per month.
Right, yes, so, yeah. Right, because the different towns had different pay cycles, and that's why they did it that way before, but they agreed to make it the same for every town.
Do we get the same day every week, the same hour?
So I think he would be, so Justin lives in Glover, so he's got to commute quite a long way, but he already comes to Berkshire, I think on Fridays, because Berkshire doesn't have Nemrick Cloud, so he has to be in the office there. So I believe he would be trying to come to Berkshire and then also work at Sheldon. If we move to the Nemrick Cloud, he'd be able to do a fair amount of his work virtually from home. So, because he'd have access to the database, or the software that does most of our services. So he would probably do a lot of the work for Sheldon at home, but then be in town. He would obviously still come here for office hours and for any in-person work he has to do, like actually going to houses and assessing. And he would, I assume that he would dovetail that with his hours in Berkshire. So I don't know exactly what day of the work week that is right now, right? With his current work that he's doing for us, he's in here generally on Fridays. So I expect that it would continue to be Fridays, but I'd have to talk to him about that.
You guys think worth pursuing?
I think I explained that other table to both Rick and Nick, but the one I put together is showing my guesstimate of how these numbers would fit into our current budget for assessing. If we hired him at 6 hours a week, assuming what we've already spent this year on assessing, what I think it's going to cost between now and July 1st, and then using the cost estimate that they provided, half of that from July 1st to December. That's the number I came up with, so we are comfortably within the budget at 6 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then we would, if we continued to budget the same amount, which was $20,000, then in theory we would be below that next year also, if, assuming the costs don't go up. Assuming those cost estimates are correct, I should say.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, I'd be comfortable with
Yeah.
that 6 hour a week and give it a try. And
Right.
try to get the rest of it done in-house if we
Mhm.
can.
Yeah, and I mean, so far as I've been able to find out, other towns are very happy with his services so far, so.
Yeah.
And he's been doing very well with, he's only been here 2 or 3 days, but he's well on the way to, on the, I think he's ahead of schedule on the current grant list, so. At least according to what he had budgeted for himself for time, so. He He's not here this week, but he's gonna be back next week.
Well, why don't you pursue that at that meeting and see where we end up for that?
Okay.
While we're on that subject, what about the Comcast network cloud?
Right.
business?
Okay, so,
How do you do
yeah.
that?
So, currently, here, I can give you guys these figures if you want, or I'll just tell you them here. So currently, we are with Consolidated, here at the town office, that's a 40 megabyte level service, and it's costing us, I think I looked at the recent bill, it was like $83, $84 a month right now. There are some fees attached to it. I think the base service is $80 a month, but then there's some fees. Right, with Comcast, the package we'd be looking at would be the 300 megabyte package, so it's, you know, not 10 times, but pretty close to that level of faster. It would be $113 a month, so, but I think actually if we went to either paperless billing or something, it would actually be slightly less than that, $5 or $10 less than that a month. There is a $100 installation fee for that, which would include some training on their administrative tools. And then NEMRIC for the cloud, that would cost $10 per user per month on top of our current NEMRIC fees. So I think we'd have about somewhere between 3 and 4 users, I think, between the clerk, the assessor, and I don't know if I think the assistant clerks have one, and I don't know if I would have one or not, but, or maybe Hubert, anyway. So it'd be somewhere around $40 a month for that service. There would be a $500 setup fee for the initial setup of NEMRIC. It would only take half a day to do that, and NEMRIC would be out for 3 or 4 hours while they were doing that. And also, it would take about half a day for Matt Bouchard to come in here and make sure that would be on when Comcast came in, I think, would be when he would be doing that half-day work for us, just making sure everything's hooked up correctly here. That is in comparison to, we don't immediately need to get a new server in-house, but within the next year or two, we would probably be looking at a new server, and Matt estimates that would cost at least $6,000. And that's not including labor for doing that, and the labor for that could be, over $1,000. That might be a wash when we consider all these other, like I said, the installation fee for Comcast and Matt services, and installation fee for Network Cloud and Matt services. That might come to a wash on the labor, but and that server, like I said, would have a service life of something like 7 years. So in terms of, I could break that down in like cost per month of that, but what that's not taking into account is that we're shifting, in general, the idea here is to shift the liability onto NEMRIC in terms of if there's a failure in the server, it's on them, and they're taking care of the data, not us.
Comcast is willing to come and
right, yes,
service here.
That's correct, yeah.
That server would be no more?
We would continue using the server that we have now to
But-
do other tasks like the phone system,
Okay.
everything except for NEMRIC that we still
But
have.
it
for-
wouldn't need an upgrade?
Correct, yeah, we could continue, because we would be taking most of the weight off the horse, so to speak.
Yep.
And so it would continue to service, I didn't get an estimate from Matt, but more or less indefinitely, I think that server could handle
Okay.
the other tasks that we have now. And if we did need to upgrade it, if we did need to replace it in the future, it would not be as substantial a server. Yes, that would, the server that we'd have, we would continue to use, and would, the life of it would extend quite a lot, because it would not be doing nearly as much work.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, there's not gonna be any less stuff on the internet and computers. year, so
Right.
if we can get it up to speed where it should be, and like you said, shift that liability to the
Right.
cloud.
And also, I mean, when, last time we did this, I know Matt's opinion was a little kind of the other way around, but that was when Nemrick had just started this cloud service, and
He's comfortable.
there were
with
some
that.
bugs that they had to work out,
Yeah.
that he feels like they've done now. And then also, because Nemrick is an older software platform, in order to continue to make it work on our local server, they've had to ask him to do things to modify the server, and he's not very comfortable with doing that because he's worried about compromising the server on other issues. So he says it'd be better to have them deal with it, making sure that Nemrick still works on their own server instead of making us do it and possibly, compromising something else. So anyway, that's the synthesis I got from Matt, that it would, So, assuming that you guys like to move forward with this, I think we'd be looking at an install around June 6th. It could be as soon as then, and like I said, it would basically take half a day for Comcast, or maybe a day, and then half a day for Matt, and half a day for Nemrick, and we would be onto that, and that would allow, like I said, Justin, for example, to do some of his work from home in Glover, which would reduce some of his travel costs possibly, although he already has to come to Berkshire, so come to Sheldon's not that much further, but also anybody else could log in from home or from another location to do work. So for example, if we lost internet here at the town office, somebody could go home and still do work if they had internet at home, or if they could go to another location, they could. There's some redundancy there that we don't have now with the current on-site service.
Yeah.
So,
Can somebody hack into that from home?
You can hack into the federal government, they can hack into anything.
right. Yeah.
What are they gonna get, our tax bills,
Right. So.
our grand list? I mean, it's,
Right, so obviously, yeah, I mean, with our current server, where there's liability there with people trying to access it here, and there would be liability on the moving it over to Nemrick, but that would be on them to provide that service as opposed to us now. And if their service is compromised, then that's a big problem for lots of towns, and so I imagine they'd have a lot more resources to throw at that to solve that problem than we would here in Sheldon, trying to solve our individual problem. But yeah, obviously there are risks involved with either course that we take here.
it's a risk of our server crashing too.
Right, exactly, right.
You know,
And
and
if our-
and there's a risk of theirs too, I guess.
Right. If our server crashes, we can't do anything here. The phone doesn't work, nothing works here. If Nemrick goes out, well, we can't do Nemrick, but we can still do everything else. So.
So I need a motion to go ahead with that one.
I would appreciate that.
Okay. Could I get one of those, you guys?
I'll make a motion.
Alright.
I'll second.
Second that. All in favor of getting Comcast service in town here with the Nemrick Cloud?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Alright. We'll pursue that.
Thank you.
Is this Cat Crusaders, is that a non-profit organization or is it what is it?
I believe they are. I know that several other towns do contribute to them. Should have pulled out my notes from talking to Jamie Rushford about that, but I think they, if I recall correctly, they provide services where they'll capture feral cats and spay or neuter them, and they deal with situations with farms, but also with a lot of the times it has to do with when people pass away who've been keeping cats or animals, things like that. So they've been dealing with some of the business that animal control would normally be dealing with, and I think, if I remember correctly, they're servicing something like 600 animals per year, and I forgot.
Well, since the Humane Society shut down, I know
Right.
we've used their services in town, our animal control officer.
Right.
But I was just wondering, the question and give it a town meeting so we could
Right.
put that on the nonprofits there.
Right. I believe they are a nonprofit, but you know what, I did not ask them that. Let me see if I can find out here real quick. If I can research that, but I'm not sure when they made this request. I think they had made it before. I'm not sure if they made it at town meeting, before town meeting or not. They were sort of calling to remind me that this had been made before, but it may have been some time ago and fallen off the radar for some reason, but, just give me a moment here and I'll see what I can find out. It is a incorporation, and they say that the donations are tax deductible, so I assume that means that it is a nonprofit organization. But, I can't remember exactly what the numbers were, but I want to say it was somewhere between, I think around 60 cats that they did in Sheldon last year, or something like that. So, and it cost them something like $80 per animal to do that. So that is why they are asking for a donation, I believe, is that just to help cover some of their costs for doing this. Obviously, if we can get our animal control officer on board, we will have additional resources here in Sheldon to deal with some of that. Maybe we won't be relying on them as much, but.
They're a good resource even for our animal control officer.
Right.
Because there's not many options for cats.
Right.
Not a lot of options for dogs anymore either, but. So, I guess we could throw in a donation, but I think you should tell them to start sending that stuff in before
town meeting. Yeah.
town meeting.
Okay.
So
Okay.
get a motion to donate $500 to Cat Crusaders, or you guys?
Yep, I'll make a motion to make the donation for the requested amount.
Second on that?
I'll second it.
All right, I guess we'll do that for now.
All right. I will notify them that we would appreciate it if they made that request before town meeting, and if they did that this year, I will make sure that it goes on there.
Right,
Yeah.
Oversight or whatever, but just tell her that, make it easier for our bookkeeping and whatever.
Oh, sorry, and the other thing I forgot, you may want to I don't know if you guys would like to discuss this in an executive possibly, but we made a motion at the last meeting to hire an animal control officer, but we did not discuss compensation for that position, and I wasn't sure how to proceed with making an offer, not knowing how much you were willing to entertain for payment on that. So if you guys like to discuss that here, or Would you like to hear a real brief rundown of the stuff I've been doing here?
Yep.
Yeah, and then
This
we can do that.
update on everything,
All right.
and then we'll do that.
Okay, just one moment here, sorry. All right, so as I mentioned, we've hired two members of the road crew. As I said, I expect one of them pending the drug test. One should be beginning next week and the other June 6th. The water situation in the springs, we are going to re-excavate that and try to repair it this Saturday.
You didn't have any luck with a vacuum.
So we did finally. So our plan is to use a Vector truck to do that this time. I'm waiting for, the city of St. Albans said that the equipment would be available. They were looking for 2 operators to come out and run that for us. It would cost $275 an hour for that, but from when they leave St. Albans to when they get back. I'm hoping that we'll be able to do the initial 4 or 5 feet of excavation with a mini excavator, and then when we get down to the level where the pipes are, that's when we would use the back truck to expose the pipes. And the plan of attack here is, instead of turning the water off and digging it up as we did last time, would be to leave the water on as long as possible, so that once we've exposed the pipes, we can clearly see where it is. And then if we need to turn the water off, we can do it, and hope this we'll turn the water, we'll go across the street, turn it off, make the repair, turn it back on, verify that everything's working fine, and then fill the hole in, so that, this should be the best way to make sure that we've done the repair correctly and be able to verify that. That was, I think, the problem last time, was that there was such a muddy mess down there, it was hard to tell if we'd really fixed it or not. The other thing is should be minimal disruption to the water by doing this. Water should be off for half an hour to an hour to do that, as opposed to several hours like we did last time.
Yep.
And third, it should prevent any, when you turn the water off, then that you create like a negative pressure sometimes, and that sucks stuff into the line. And not last repair, but the one before that, we had some residents with problems afterward, where there was residue in the water. So that's the plan of attack. As I said, I'm waiting for St. Albans to reply about whether they've got staff available. If St. Albans isn't available, there's a private company I found that will do it for $300 an hour. They'd have to be coming from Heinsberg, so it would cost a little bit more money. But again, I'm hoping that we'll only need to use the Vector truck for an hour or maybe 2 to just do that last little bit and expose the pipes. I'm hoping this will be the last time we're dealing with this situation. I did receive a call again from the abutting properties about water in their basement and some current concerns there, so I will be following up with them about that. I'm not sure if there'll be any, if the town has any liability there or not. We have to look at that, because water we don't know exactly when this issue started, because it was in the winter, so anyway, we'll be investigating that. So that's the biggest thing happening this week. So on the zoning side, I notified Northwest Regional that we'd be very interested in maintaining a relationship with them and having them provide us with a zoning administrator. So I believe that they're preparing that contract for you guys to look at. Mike's intended replacement, her name's Danielle. She came out here today to kind of learn how we do stuff in Sheldon. Very nice. She's already working in North Hero. And that's a much more complicated zoning place than Sheldon is. So I think she'll work out just fine here. So I think she's planning to come to the next select board meeting on June 10th to introduce herself, and hopefully by then I'll have a copy planning commission met the day after your last meeting. They finalized the town plan, so that's going to a public hearing. It'll be on June 25th at 6 p.m. I just put the notice out for that today on the website and various places around town. The major change that there is a change that's going to be made to this, that's intended to be made to the zoning, where it's currently in our zoning, Sheldon Creek and Sheldon Springs have the same residential zoning, or the same village designation. In this new town plan, they're contemplating those being two distinct village zones, so there'll be a Sheldon Springs zone and a Sheldon Creek zone. And that's mostly because lot sizes are smaller in Sheldon Springs, and so they've come up with a unique set of setbacks and building height zoning that they'd like to adopt there. One potential issue for the select board to look at that is having to do with the sewer district out there, and I'll find a better way to describe this, but essentially the select board will have a choice to make about how you want to define the sewer district in light of that new zoning. You could restrict it to just the people in that village zoning can have sewer, or I think the wastewater ordinance we found from back in the 70s said that, you know, if you are willing to build on to the sewer, you know, pay the cost of extending the sewer service to your house, then the town then you could access that sewer. So the regulations could be written so that, let's say somebody who lives down the Sweet Hollow Road wants to spend a ton of money and extend the sewer down there. Well, if they did, you could have it so that the zoning regulations from the village would then extend out to that property. And they would have the setbacks and all that would be the same as if they lived in Sheldon Springs, because now they have sewer. So it's a choice for the select board to decide which way that's going to go. Either the sewer can expand beyond the village district, or if the sewer expands, then the village district expands also. Okay, so that'll be a potential thing for you guys to deal with. NRPC was very willing to make a presentation about that to you guys if you'd be interested in that. One of your subsequent, maybe after the public hearing, you guys will obviously have the final say on the town plan, so I'm not sure when but they would be very willing to give a presentation on those sewer changes and also on bylaw modernization that's in the town plan. There's a couple other new things, mostly having to do with, there's renewable energy things, because we have so many more solar panels in Sheldon than we used to. So there's a couple of changes like that. Again, I'll be posting a copy of this most recent draft on the town website so people can take a look at that for themselves, and ahead of the public hearing on the 25th. Try to run through the rest of this quickly, sorry. I attended a webinar on for select board members. I shared those materials with you guys. I think I explained to Steve and I think a couple other guys that the two things they did talk about was these potential changes that are coming to open meeting law and conflict of interest. There are two bills that the governor probably is going to sign, but he hadn't done it by the time they had this meeting. On the open meeting law, they're going to be changing some of the things that were changed specifically for COVID, having to do with virtual meetings, and there's going to be some changes of requirements in terms of recording meetings. Thanks to Northwest Access, we really don't have a problem with that here in Sheldon, but the planning for commission may have to start recording their meetings and making that available online for 30 days. Again, it's not a big change, but it's the other thing is that our board chair will have to have annual training on open meeting law. The bigger change would be on the conflict of interest. Right now, towns all the towns have their own policies for defining conflict of interest and the process for dealing with that and consequences for that. The state is basically adopting a code of ethics for the whole state. So the state would take over defining what conflict of interest is, but it would still be up to towns to do the investigation and enforcement of that. And also they would require most public officials to have training on that annually. That's a change that wouldn't happen until, I think, next July, if it becomes law. Or at least it wouldn't take effect until next year, if it becomes law. So anyway, I have access to those materials if anybody's interested in that, and I can share them with you. As I mentioned, we received the audit. Last week they had a meeting here about the proposed rail trail.
Rest area?
Yeah, the rest area that they're planning at the intersection, the junction there. It was pretty much what I expected it was going to be. There was one thing that came up there that, so there's two alternatives they're looking at. One would just use the current right-of-way that they have, so it'd be a much smaller parking lot. And then another would be if they would be acquiring some land from Bordeaux's to put up a larger parking lot area. But in both cases, they would have a sort of pavilion rest area, and there would be some portalettes there. One thing I learned there is that it differs from town to town in terms of how this, because I think there's some facilities they have in Danville near Joe's Pond that I think the state runs that, but in lots of other places, the towns are responsible for that. So I think basically, if this thing gets built, which this is just a scoping study right now, but if it gets built, servicing those portalettes and mowing the grass there at the park may become a town responsibility, or at least that's the
State land.
right. Yeah, apparently, yeah. So yes, that was something I learned is possibly going to happen. So again, we'll see if it gets built. I think the costs for both of them were quite substantial. I think even the minimal, don't buy any land option was over $700,000, and the if you bought land, it was over $1 million. So that would obviously be several years away, I think, in terms of it would require some federal or state grants to even get done. So
Yeah.
I did, as Nick had asked me to reach out to Jesse Woods, and I talked to him last week. Enosburg, they had met with Roger Marcoux and Gary Taylor about this policing committee they're thinking about putting together. The Enosburg Selectboard would have talked about this last Monday. I haven't really heard anything about it since. Really, Enosburg, Sheldon, and Richford seem to be the interested communities. Berkshire and Bakersfield were kind of maybe interested, kicking the tires. Montgomery's apparently not interested.
The 105 corridor.
Right, it's basically the 105 corridor, and I think, anyway, and just to let you know some of the costs they were looking at, it would be like $130,000 to $150,000 to hire a chief. It'd be around $100,000 per officer and $80,000 per cruiser that they've been talking about. So this, pretty soon start talking about real money. And they would be looking at either St. Albans or Lamoille for dispatching. Obviously they want to get a committee together, but then the first step obviously would be hiring somebody to head this up as a chief, and they have some people that they're looking at, but nobody who's expressed any particular interest or that they know is interested in it. They did express some other frustration with the sheriff about transparency, and the sheriff did, I'm sorry Nick, I should have told you, the sheriff did email me back basically saying on the estimated costs. We had asked him for a cost breakdown, and he basically said, you know, I can't really do it. I can send you a copy of that email, but again, it was sort of, I can't give this information out because I have competitors and I don't want them to know that. So anyway, Jesse expressed some frustration about dealing with the sheriff, and they've also heard lots of reports that they are having issues doing even some of their court-required duties, like issuing summons and stuff like that. There are attorneys who are apparently calling up like Chittenden County and trying to get the sheriff down there to do some of that. So anyway, just wanted to report that. Oh, one other thing that I just Jesse and I were talking, just because I never talked to him. He does the listing work in Enosburg also, or some of it, and they are doing a reappraisal this year in Enosburg, and he let me know about a firm that they're going to work with that's out of Texas. I guess it's one of Tom Vickery, who was with Vermont Appraisal Company, was one of Ted and Kermit's partners. His son works for this company anyway. So it sounded, I can send you guys the details, but the price that they were looking at was pretty reasonable, I thought, and it sounded like they were actually going to come and inspect the properties, as opposed to some firms kind of make a guesstimate about all the properties and then they wait for people to complain to get into the nitty-gritty about it. And it sounds like they were going to actually go out and do 2 years of going house to house and getting a good estimate of what was going on. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out for them, because it's looking like we're going to have to reappraise in the next 2 years probably. I thought that was good information to have, and we can get feedback from them about that. So I did call. So Hubert and I talked about the camera operation. The fellow he was looking to go with has something wrong with his camera, so finally I called Minash and had them. So I've scheduled them to come June 14th. That's a Friday, and I asked them to bring a jetter back truck with them, because the last time we did this camera work, we got the camera so far and then it got stuck, so we couldn't proceed. So the idea is to bring the jetter with them. If that happens again, we jet the line out and keep the camera moving. So the plan is to do all of Mill Street, and I think it'll take 1 day. So the price on that is going to cost $2,400 for the truck for the day and $200 for the camera for the day. So, but in theory, that means we'll have the whole sewer mapped all the way down the street. Okay, I'm sure there's something else I'm forgetting about, but that's probably enough out of me for right now.
Question,
Yeah,
you're saying you're gonna do the water Saturday?
correct. The reason we were doing that on Saturday is because we wanted to avoid disrupting service to the school, because there's no other day that the school's not in session.
But there are other things going on Saturday too.
Correct, yeah, I know that. As I said, the plan here is to have minimal disruption to the water. The last time we were able, even the project is very close to 105, but we were able to do it last time, maintaining two-way traffic. And I think there was fairly minimal disruption to the traffic. And of course, that was a weekday, so obviously there's a festival going on in Enosburg. There'll be a lot of people going by, but
You said the 14th.
oh, sorry, this is we're talking, he's asking about the water repair, correct?
Correct.
Right, yeah. So the sewer work is on a Friday. The water work is coming up this Saturday. So unfortunately, I have to kind of go through the whole process I did last time, getting a state permit and getting the utilities notified and all that stuff. And I'm hoping we can avoid having to have the pole held up as we did last time, but we might have to do that again. So, but again, I hope the disruption to the water service is minimal and we can accomplish this without disturbing, the traffic. We can maintain true-way traffic on the road. So,
Is there gonna be a coin drop disrupting traffic anyway?
Perfect opportunity to go.
Yeah, I've done it before.
I was gonna say, there's a coin drop right
Right, we
there.
should, yeah.
Slow them down.
You won't notice it.
We'll put a bucket next to the road cone.
There you go.
Right.
Alright, that sounds good.
Oh, sorry, the one other thing, so, Caden Tabor,
Oh, yeah.
has his, road out there on the Cook Road, he'd like to call it Cattle Drive.
Cattle Drive.
Cattle drive what? Road, what?
Well, it'll be Cattle
Oh,
Drive.
cattle drive.
Excuse me, I should have said yes.
Got it.
Yeah,
That's good.
so,
That's on the other side of the road from barn.
I think so, yes, yeah, that's where his,
That's what I thought,
development
so.
will be over there, yeah, yeah.
Alright. Get a motion for that.
I believe so.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept cattle drive.
I admire his sense of humor about it, most people don't, you know.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright,
Okay.
so we got
Would you like to,
everything.
Animal control.
right, would you like to go into executive to
Yeah,
discuss that?
sure.
And then we
Take a
can,
motion to go to executive session and then adjourn the meeting when we get out.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session and then adjourn the meeting when we exit executive.
Second.